Hi, Dan. Welcome back to the show.
John, it's great to be back with you. I think you and I spoke a year or maybe 2 years ago about
No,
my
it's about a
last
year
book.
ago. Yeah, about a year
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, about my novel, vampire novel, Fiona's Guardian. So
Mhm.
this one's going to be a little bit different, a different conversation, I think.
I think so. And I'm very eager to find out. Yes, it was about a year ago. And you know what I did before we got on air here, if you want to call this air, not really. Anyway, I watched a bit of that interview to familiarize myself with your background and all that. And I do like asking people to tell me about themselves. If you can keep it kind of short and recap, and for those people who may not have seen your episode last year, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, last year I retired from 30 years in public radio. I was the morning edition host in Northern Illinois for a quarter century. And then my wife and I moved down to Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm speaking to you from that fine city today.
Okay, good enough. Great. Yeah. You had a very interesting life. Now let's get to your book, DIY Book Promo. What's that all about?
It's how to find your readers without spending money. So I talk to writers all the time, people who have written many books, including, and they struggle. Just about everybody I talk to struggles with marketing. Many don't like the process,
Yep.
are uncomfortable putting themselves out there, thinking, "Am I spamming? Am I doing too much?" And others really don't have the tools or the knowledge to market a book. And so for them, it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. So in DIY book promo, I'm offering very practical advice that you can implement the next day. And just focusing on a few key things. If you like, John, I could just tick those off, and then we could go deeper
Oh,
into
please
those if
do.
you like.
Yeah, please do. Yes. I'm so
So the
curious.
things I emphasize in DIY book promo are how to co-brand with indie bookstores, uh, how to pitch media outlets for interviews and perform well in front of the mic, which book reviewers to pursue and which to avoid. And I also share an alternate path to getting your book adapted. And I was able to get my vampire novel, Fiona's Guardians, adapted. We could talk about that in depth.
And was it from your experience with promoting Fiona's Guardians that you came up with these techniques?
Absolutely. So my campaign for Fiona's Guardians it was pretty much 3 years long, and it ended up being a successful campaign. But it's something that I was still working full time in radio, so promotion became a part-time job.
Mhm.
But also the techniques that I've learned about, how to do an interview, like we're doing right here, from my radio career. I also incorporate that into DIY.
Good. Most of the people I interview speak well, but there's the occasional person who's kind of shy and doesn't know how to answer questions. But hopefully I'm buoyant enough to bring it all out and just have a conversation, not really an interview. But yes, they are interviews after all. That's what they are. You are promoting your
Yeah.
book.
Absolutely. And if you want to keep your publisher happy, for example, you'll have to get out there fairly often,
That's
especially
right. That's right.
in the lead up to the release date, or even when pre-orders open for your book. It's very important to get interviews just like this.
Absolutely. That little record contract I had back in my late 20s, I was put in front of microphones constantly at various radio stations being interviewed. I sometimes didn't know what town I was in. So yeah, you have to be able to do that.
Good evening, Cleveland. Sorry, Pittsburgh.
That's right. Yeah. It was something like that. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, you say how to find readers without spending money.
I think most authors, and the vast majority of the people who will be interested in the techniques that I talk about, will be self-published authors. I know from Bowker publishing data that more than 2 million Americans self-publish every year, and many of them have paid for a professional edit. Many have paid for cover art that will stand out in an online listing or in their shelf of their local bookstore, and they probably don't have a lot of money left for a
Mhm.
marketing budget. And if you're going to pay a professional, you could end up paying between $3,000 and $5,000 a month for
Yes.
a 4 month campaign. That's the top end. And so, I'm a, I'm not rich. I can't afford that. So I wrote this book with the average writer in mind who has already invested a lot in their book, perhaps even have paid for a publishing package. And now they're figuring out, okay, I need free tools. I need to find, information and how to use free tools to promote my book.
Okay.
Tools like social media and email are two good ones that I start with.
Oh, really? How does that help
Yeah.
me?
An email list, a robust email list will help you, especially if you, and the easy way to do that is if you have a lot of subscribers to a blog or a newsletter.
Right.
Then you're able to reach people without those pesky little Facebook bots or Instagram bots, suppressing your reach. So that's also a very good thing to have. My email lists consist of several categories, including bookstores. And I mentioned earlier that I co-brand with indie bookstores. I really emphasize that
Yes.
uh, bec- because independent bookstores are far more likely to stock a book by a local or regional indie author, are more likely to invite that author to signing events in their store. And even if they don't carry your book, devote shelf space to your book, they might have you listed in their online catalog, which is also extremely helpful and something that you can promote. And I could talk about ways to do that. But the goal of when talking about independent bookstores is to get photos of smiling booksellers holding your book, giving a thumbs up to your title. And
Oh,
why is that so important? Because booksellers are authorities. Readers look to these folks for recommendations. So the smiling bookseller, thumbs up to your title, that's going to get really good engagement on
oh,
social media, much more engagement than say just a display pic. And
sure.
so I always ask independent bookstores, and I've gotten into dozens of independent bookstores in the United States, in Canada, and in the UK. And that was a result of thousands of emails. But I have the photos that to share as a result of that, and that has been, something that's how people find out about my
Oh, that's
books, John,
it's so
through those
simple.
photos on social media. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I am on this end, I interview, have conversations with a lot of independent authors, and I've seen a lot of those pictures. Smiling
Yes.
book, so yeah, super. That's great. Um, recently I've had a few guests on who, were bragging about the fact that they won this award and that award, and there seems to be like endless amount of awards. So finally, I had to ask, for the sake of people who watch the show, what does it take to even enter into a award? Do they choose you or do you choose them? And I was told that to enter into awards, it costs money. What's the truth in that, and how does that work?
Right. So, I guess you have to pay for the judges or pay for the contest in this particular cases that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But there are sources out there, and newpages.com is one where you can find contests that have a fee, but others that don't have a fee. And I draw the line on paying for a lot of things, but I'm not. But paying for a contest paying a contest fee for a shot at winning an award, not a
Uh-huh.
guarantee, a shot
Mhm.
at winning an award. That's a hill that I'm not willing to die on.
Okay.
But there are areas that I could get into, including reviews, that where I will not recommend paying anybody.
Hmm.
So that is a hill I'm willing to
Okay.
die on.
Yeah, of course, reviews are very important. What if
Yeah.
you have a small social circle? Your family's not that big, and on social media, you may have a few hundred followers, and that's about it. How can you encourage people to leave a review, let alone to buy your book?
Right. So I emphasize pitching bloggers that review in your genre. And I'm going to talk about two different kinds of bloggers here. Those that are genre specific, so horror, sci-fi. There's a romance blog I was kind of examining the other day. There's a mystery, fantasy, etc. Find a blogger who has read everybody who came before you in your genre, and then pitch them for a review. As somebody who wrote a vampire novel, Taliesin Meets the Vampires, a reviewer in England, the Dark Sire magazine has a review, and I'm a big fan of the Chicago Writers Association, their Windy City Review publication. It's an online publication, and they give free reviews, and it's helpful if you're a member. Only $25 a year to become a member, and you get tons of resources. But the Chicago Writers Association review of my novel that came out a few years ago. I cherish that. And anybody I contact regarding my book, whether it's a bookseller, the organizer of a book festival, media outlets, I include a link to that review.
Okay. Now you're familiar with Canada to some extent. I understand you have the books in stores in Ontario somewhere.
That's right. So this is Georgian Bay Books, and they're up in, is it Middletown?
Yeah, I
Something
can
like
picture it
Middleton?
somewhere in the
Middleton?
north of Toronto, maybe about an hour
Yeah,
and a half drive, 2 hours north of Toronto, for sure.
yeah. They're the most recent one I think that stocked my vampire novel, which was great. And I of course had photos. They gave me a display photo, which gets less engagement, but I was still grateful for it, and I shared that everywhere.
Hmm.
Um, and I tagged them from time to time on Instagram or Facebook to let them know I'm doing my part to promote their store as well, and the fact that my
Sure.
book is available in this
Yeah.
store. And really, when you're talking about independent bookstores, it is a partnership. Indie booksellers and indie authors, we
Yeah,
need to work together.
for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
did you have a hard time breaking into Toronto, the largest city in Canada? Obviously, there's some money there.
Yes, there is. And I have not heard back from booksellers in Toronto yet. I have sent, I'd say, maybe 6 or 7 email pitches for my vampire novel over the last couple of years, and then for DIY book promo. Sometimes I will find out years later that someone stocked my book and didn't tell me. So I can't guarantee that I'm not
Yeah.
in those stores, but I've not received any photos or any word from those. However, I do say to everybody, if you support independent bookstores, be sure to go to your local mom and pop shop and order my book or anybody's book,
Hmm.
and they can get it to you in a few days. It's not a big deal. But when you support independent bookstores, more of your money stays in your community, and it's extremely important to do that. And that goes for any independent store, mom and pop
Absolutely.
shop.
I
Yeah.
imagine if you're supporting a local bookstore, it's all the easier that they'll help support you.
Absolutely. And they also respond very favorably when you let them know that, and again, here's the co-branding bit again.
Yeah.
When you let them know that you've included a link to bookshop.org on your author website. Um, of course, I have an Amazon link, but the first one you see when you go to either of my websites, DIYbookpromo.com or danklefstad.com, is a link to get it on bookshop.org. You click that, and it takes you right to the buy link. For those who don't know what bookshop.org is, it's an online portal that allows you to shop online, but also name the independent bookstore that gets the profits. It's a really important thing, and I encourage everybody who prefers to shop online to give it a try.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of work, and I know that there is, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of work once the book is out in the marketing. It doesn't have to cost you money, but you have to be persistent. How do you address the discouragement factor when people say, "Oh, people are so cynical," and there's 2 million books released every what was it, 2 million a year,
Self-published, yeah, absolutely.
self-published, and I'm
Yeah.
just one of those. Like,
Mhm.
why would they listen to me?
Right. And to those folks, I would say, how long did you work on your book? How important is your book to you? Are you really, really proud of it? If so, it deserves the biggest push you can reasonably give it on social media, writing to booksellers, pitching your local media outlets, and of course, trying to get into book festivals. If you're not all that crazy about the book that you wrote, or you maybe aren't happy with the edit you got from your publisher, I would say, okay, you can't sell something that you don't believe in, and
Right.
you can't convince people to buy something that's subpar. But if
Mhm.
you really believe, and if your beta readers were telling you that you have a really good book, if your initial reviewers are telling you, "Damn, this is a good book," well, devote as much time as you could reasonably devote to pushing it out there. It deserves it. Now, having said that, John, I think we should acknowledge that some folks have a full-time job. So I would say make marketing your book can you make marketing your book a part-time job of say 3 hours a day and including on weekends. If you have a young child or a sick parent, maybe you can do an hour or a half hour a day. Try to find that space if you can, because your book deserves it. And if you are able to just carve out just a little bit, you will you will find your readers. The ripple effect may spread a little more slowly as people tell their friends and followers on social media about your book. But this isn't a race. You're the only one you're competing against. You just do what you can to get your book out there as give it the promotional push that it deserves, and eventually you will find your readers.
Okay. Right. Here's a question that pertains to what we're doing right now.
Mhm.
This is a YouTube channel, or you can see it on Facebook. It's video, and but most book podcasts are only audio. Which is more effective, do you think?
Well, video and audio, I find, just anecdotally here, I have no science behind this, do well. I think that audio mediums like podcasts or radio allow the person listening to multitask, which I think is a good thing.
Hmm.
Video, of course, and I've seen what you've done with the video for the interview that we did with Fiona's Guardians. You had a we had a good conversation. It was very well produced, and you would intersperse photos of the cover in that, which I think is very helpful to an author.
Hmm.
So video, I also think, is extremely important. I will take any interview I can get, John, and I encourage everybody who's a writer who has a
Yeah.
new book coming out to do the same. Newspaper, podcasts. If another thing to think about when pitching news media or podcasts for an interview is, does your book have a season? So with a vampire
Okay.
novel, obviously, like Fiona's Guardians, October is the season, right?
Yes.
But maybe you've written a book that fits in with a national celebration, like Juneteenth or Pride Month or St. Patrick's Day,
Right.
or a book that's a Christmas story. Well, then what I would do is pitch the news media outlets 2 months out and say, hey, I've got a book that fits in with this season, and I'd love to talk about it because I'm going to be doing a library or a bookstore event around that time, And so what we have there is two news hooks.
Okay.
If you can get them. So anytime you get scheduled for a library or bookstore event, or maybe you're speaking at a cafe about your book, that is a hook for your local media to consider. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get an interview, but one news
Yeah.
hook is good. But if it also occurs with, during your book's season, then, Valentine's Day for a romance, for example,
Hmm.
then you have a second news hook, which increases the likelihood that you're going to get an interview.
Okay. I recently had some guests on who wrote children's books,
Oh,
all of
yeah.
27 or 30 pages. They got the images of kittens and puppies and flowers and whatnot, and then they write just sparse sort of words, typical children's books. And they could pump these out one a month if they try. What kind of market is there for that kind of thing?
Well, there's a huge market for children's books. I was at the Kentucky Book Festival just this past weekend, and the person next to me was an illustrator for children's books, and her books were flying off the table. I mean,
Hmm.
they're really well done, nicely illustrated, nice little stories, and yes, so I think those are the kinds of books that will really do well at a book festival, but also at your local library. If an author wanted to introduce their children's book to more readers, maybe get involved in a story time at the local library
Yeah,
on a Saturday.
yeah,
That would be a perfect way to introduce your book. So there are many, many different options for children's books. I am not an expert on marketing children's books, but
right,
I've been watching lately. I've been watching, and they sell very well, especially if they're
right.
really illustrated.
Yes, of course, the illustrations make it for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're very genre specific, if you like, you only do sci-fi, there's got to be places to get together with people who are just only about sci-fi. And if you're a
That's right.
Christian writer, and I've had a few of them
Uh-huh.
on, well, there's
Uh-huh.
Christian bookstores and there's churches and there's all kinds of, there's a built-in market for it.
Absolutely. So take a look at your genre when you're about to launch your book, and then find your audience, find where your people gather. You
That's
know, it
right.
might be at the local library, it might be at a bar where people talk about sci-fi books or whatever, or it might be in a Facebook group that
Hmm.
resonates with your genre.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Don't go all guns blazing saying, "Hey, I got a book. You know, you're going to want to buy this book." Introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Participate in conversations.
Yeah.
Become someone who people start asking. Seeking answers to questions about. Become the person that's a regular participant. And then maybe mention, and I talk about this in my book. I address this very topic that we're talking about right now in my book, and you might want to explore that. You can take a look at the description, right here if you like. There are ways to do it, but I think the hard sell right off the bat will be a turnoff in the group, and in some Facebook groups, of course, will just say if you're being promotional, we're just going to cut off the conversation. You're not going to be allowed to participate
Yeah.
anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. I have a feeling that I need to have this book somewhere back here, just there. And so when I'm talking to people and I ask them how sales are going, I say, well, marketing's, well, just buy this book, right?
Yes,
I
yeah,
mean,
great idea.
it's made for this show. I have to have this book. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out because I have problems with marketing too. Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
I'm just here to share the experience that I've learned. But also, this is actually, I'm not the only writer, but I'm one of the few that I've ever met who actually enjoys the marketing process. And I hope my enthusiasm is a little bit infectious
Okay. Yeah.
for the people who read DIY book promo.
Now, how is Fiona's Guardians doing sales wise?
It's doing well. So I sold a bunch of those at the Kentucky Book Festival in Lexington just this past week. A bunch of the hardcovers. We re-released the book. My publisher reissued the book in hardcover with new cover art that is really beautiful. It has a kind of a gothic, but also a noir kind of cover, and it's so important. I mean, just as illustrations are for a children's book that we're talking about,
Yeah.
a really good cover art. Don't skimp on that. Invest as much as you can on a
Mhm.
cover for your book because something that's going to draw people in, and it will also a cover that resonates with your genre.
Okay.
Um, that's a bit of marketing right there.
It
An
is.
important marketing decision is the cover art.
No, of course, I agree.
Mhm.
Do you give advice as to what to look out for when you are thinking, okay, fine, I'm going to spend money on an illustrator, but there's a lot of shysters out there. So
There are.
how do you wade through all that?
Well, the easiest answer I can give is that the people who pitch you first, the minute you announce that you have a book coming out, those are the ones you probably want to avoid.
Okay.
They sort of wait like vultures. Oh, this person needs a marketing guru. Okay, or this person needs cover art, or this person needs a publishing package that I can charge them a lot of money for.
Yeah.
Watch out for those. The responsible marketers, illustrators, editors, and publishers are not, and agents aren't going to come to you. You come to them. You will find them, and then the conversation will ensue after that.
Okay. Yeah, very good. How long is your book? Oh, what's the size of it?
Oh, it's a short book because who wants to read a long book about
Okay.
marketing? I mean,
Sure. Okay.
so I keep it short and sweet. It's just under 60 pages,
Okay.
and it's literally just meant to be consumed in an hour or two and give the reader the confidence and enough information to implement really practical stuff right away.
Excellent. I'm going to order this book for myself. I'm ready to learn what you have experienced.
It's music to my ears, John, and I do
Yeah.
hope you find it useful.
I
Really,
think I will. I think I will. I need to learn a few things that I just don't know. Um, so are you going to get back to writing fiction after this?
I am. I'm getting close to finishing the sequel to Fiona's Guardians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the book basically continues where the last one left off. Daniel, the vampire's guardian, is now working for the progeny of Fiona, the vampire, her, I guess you could say, daughter, Camilla. And so that story is, it's about 50,000 words right now. I anticipate it'll be similar to Fiona's Guardians, 65,000. So
Okay.
I'm entering the home stretch on that, and I hope to
Okay.
have it out next year.
Did writing DIY book promo delay that process?
Well, I needed, and this is actually something I talk about in DIY. I needed my next book to marinate for a while. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I just writing. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. Writing fiction is a real deep dive for me. I really have to immerse myself in character and plot. And I'm a pantser, not a plotter.
Mhm.
So, this kind of process takes me a little bit longer. Fiona's Guardians took 4 years, and I anticipate that the next one will take the same. So I needed a break, but also I had things I learned from the last campaign, and I just wanted to
Yeah.
share them, get them out there. And I was getting invitations to present DIY book promo, the PowerPoint, and I thought, well, I guess it would be helpful if I had a book too about that. So I
Okay.
did.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's end this with a good pitch for your book. And I think everybody who watches my channel who has ever wondered about marketing, and a lot of them do, should
Mhm.
pay strict attention to this pitch. Go for it.
There are a lot of great books about marketing. Every one of them will teach you something different. And I focus on really practical things, not a long list. There's practical stuff that you could implement tomorrow. And also, I offer as much encouragement as I can because for most people, marketing is a slog and they hate it. And I feel you, but just give this book a look, and you'll feel better and you'll have more knowledge.
Well, I'm looking forward to my copy. Dan, it's been a pleasure talking to you again, and I welcome you back whenever you have anything more to say. It's a real trip.
John, always great to talk with you, and I very much look forward to speaking with you, hopefully next year.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Okay.
Well,
All right,
take
thank
care of
you.
yourself.
You too. All
Bye.
right, bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, and if you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then I invite you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment if you wish. And if you are an author, I would sure love to hear from you. Until such time, keep on writing, and remember to be kind to one another.